So the last few months have been shrouded with Star Wars. I mean, everywhere you look, you are reminded of George Lucas's newest addition to his film franchise. Whether it be in apparel, or toys, or in our video games, books, candy, even bottled water has the Star Wars insignia on it. Star Wars Episode 7 The Force Awakens hits theaters nationwide December 18th. And I figured, before then, why not make a countdown video? So I'm going to list off my favorite of the 6 episodes in the Star Wars saga. Now there is no such thing as a bad Star Wars film, they are all good in their own right. This is simply my opinion. You may all not agree with my list, hell maybe you will. But I'm going to go ahead and get right into it and list off my number 6 spot in the list. That goes to Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones was released in May of 2002 and is set 10 years after the events of The Phantom Menace, when the galaxy is on the brink of civil war. Now the reason Attack of the Clones is taking the number 6 spot is because of all the CG that was used in this film. I mean, aside from this movie feeling more like you're watching a 2-hour video game, it also managed to damn near ruin some of the greatest Star Wars characters ever created. But I digress. It wasn't necessarily bad per se, it just wasn't that good, at least compared to the other films in the saga. The whole fight scene with Yoda was very sloppy. I mean, I have no issue with Yoda wielding a lightsaber and having a fight scene, but I would have much preferred for his first and only fight to be against someone like the Emperor, not against some lame villain like Count Dooku. That's it. On top of that, this movie nearly destroys and buries 2 of the most beloved characters in all of Star Wars. I'm talking R2-D2 and C-3PO. I mean, when R2 flies, it looks bad. Really, really bad. But nothing can compare to what poor C-3PO goes through. He is made of mockery in this film. He loses his head, then gets a battle droid head melted to it. And let's not forget about all the horribly bad dialogue and puns. It makes you hate this character. The whole scene is a mockery of Star Wars. Utter crap. Definitely the worst thing Star Wars has ever done. I know I've said a lot of horrible things about Attack of the Clones, but there are still some good things about this movie. For instance, the opening chase and the final clone battle. Now, the opening chase was one of the most digitized scenes in the movie, but you have to admire it to some degree. It is a very entertaining scene, so I have to give credit where credit is due. Then there was the final clone battle, which had a very nice lightsaber duel between Anakin and Doobu, and seeing the early Death Star plans was a treat. There was a few hidden gems buried within the Attack of the Clones, but the heavy use of CGI mixed with poor characters and lame dialogue forces Attack of the Clones to the bottom of my list. I mean, Spaceballs was better than this.
Keep firing, assholes! Okay.
Coming in at number 5 is Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. In Revenge of the Sith, set 3 years after the onset of the Clone Wars, the Jedi Knights are spread out across the galaxy, leading a massive clone army in the war against the Separatists. The Jedi Council dispatches Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi to eliminate the notorious General Grievous, leader of the Separatist army. Meanwhile, Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker, separated from his former master, grows close to Palpatine, the Chancellor of the Galactic Republic, and, unknown to the public, a Sith Lord. Their deepening friendship manages to threaten the Jedi Order, the Republic, and Anakin himself, who eventually yields to the dark side of the Force and becomes Darth Vader. One of the cool things I really enjoyed about this film is the opening space battle. Now, more spaceships don't necessarily make a film better, but it's satisfying to watch the starfighters at the opening of Revenge of the Sith tip over the edge of the Naboo star skiff to reveal the kind of CGI firepower that Lucas has been waiting 2 decades to deploy. The Rainbow Prism Dream Effect were awesome, and Ian McDiarmid really sold his role as the Emperor. I mean, he was best in Episode 2 when his character was more ambiguous, but in Revenge of the Sith, he really lets that evil rip. And I have to mention the Twi'leks for a moment. Still the hottest race in the Star Wars universe. I mean, wow. One of the main things I dislike about Revenge of the Sith is Yoda. In The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, a puppet was used for Yoda, which looked amazing. However, for whatever reason, a CGI form of Yoda was used for Revenge of the Sith, which doesn't do Yoda justice at all. And this film was slightly cartoony, but it's not that bad of a thing. Fundamentally, my defense of the Star Wars prequels rests on the fact that Lucas uses the 3 new films to develop the themes that give the original trilogy its lasting power. Return of the Jedi articulated the connection between fear and evil, and Revenge of the Sith traces the origins of that fear. The ultimate root of Darth Vader's tragedy is revealed to be his false belief that he can control another person's fate. In that light, the whole series becomes a meditation on the distinction between unselfish love and selfish possession, one of the most profound challenges of human existence. The prequels are, for many reasons, far inferior to the original trilogy. But in this crucial respect, seeing the prequels enhances the experience of revisiting those classic first films. Number 4 on my list is Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. I just talked briefly on this film, but now let's dig deep into this movie. In Return of the Jedi, the evil Galactic Empire, under the direction of the ruthless Emperor Palpatine, is constructing a second Death Star in order to crush the Rebel Alliance once and for all. Since Palpatine plans to personally oversee the final stages of its construction, the Rebel fleet launches a full-scale attack on the Death Star in order to prevent its completion and kill Palpatine, effectively bringing an end to the Empire's hold over the galaxy. Meanwhile, Luke Skywalker, the Rebel leader and Jedi apprentice, struggles to bring Darth Vader, whom he has learned is actually his father, Anakin, and himself a fallen Jedi, back from the dark side of the Force. This film was released almost 35 years ago and is still 100 times better than Attack of the Clones. One scene I really love from Return of the Jedi is this one, where Luke Skywalker is engaged in a ferocious battle in the dungeons beneath the throne room of the loathsome Jabba the Hutt. His adversary is a slimy, gruesome reptilian monster made of warts and teeth. Things are looking bad when suddenly the monster is crushed beneath a falling door. And then there's a shot of the monster's keeper, a muscle-bound jailer, who rushes forward in tears. He is brokenhearted at the destruction of his pet. I mean, everybody loves somebody. It is that extra level of detail that makes the Star Wars pictures much more than just space operas. Other movies might approach the special effects, other action pictures might approximate the sense of swashbuckling adventure, but in Return of the Jedi, as in Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back, there's such a wonderful density to the canvas. Things are happening all over. They're pouring forth from imagination so fertile that yes, we do halfway believe in this crazy galactic empire long ago and far, far away. This movie has some of the best chases that take place in outer space. The space cruisers hurtle through the narrow canyons on the surface of the Death Star. Then there is a breakneck chase through a forest aboard airborne motorcycles. After several of the bad guys have ran into trees or gotten creamed, you pause for a second to ask yourself, why couldn't they have simply flown above the treetops? But never mind, it would have been quite as fun that way. I really have nothing negative to say about Return of the Jedi, so let's just leave this at this and move on to the number 3 Star Wars film on my list. Well, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty now. Number 3 on my list is Episode 4, A New Hope. 19 years after the formation of the Empire, Luke Skywalker is thrust into the struggle of the Rebel Alliance when he meets Obi-Wan Kenobi, who has lived for years in seclusion on the desert planet of Tatooine. Obi-Wan begins Luke's Jedi training as Luke joins him on a daring mission to rescue the beautiful rebel leader Princess Leia from the clutches of the evil Empire. Although Obi-Wan sacrifices himself in a lightsaber duel with Darth Vader, his former apprentice, Luke proves that the Force is with him by destroying the Empire's dreaded Death Star. What do I like about A New Hope, and why is it my number 3 favorite Star Wars film? I mean, it came out almost a decade before I was born, in a time where technology wasn't near as advanced as it is today. Well, it is the first Star Wars movie, so it led the way for Star Wars to become one of the most successful films of all time. and A New Hope was influential in that success. If this isn't enough reason for this film to take the number 3 spot, A New Hope was selected by the Library of Congress to be preserved by its National Film Registry in 1989, its very first year in existence. If that accomplishment doesn't say something about the impact this film had, then you need to go watch this movie yourself if you haven't already, or rewatch it again. Then you tell me it isn't deserving of my top 3 Star Wars movies. Where I thought this movie really shined was with its outstanding cast of characters. In particular, I'm talking about the other major characters aside from Luke and Darth Vader. C-3PO, R2-D2, Han Solo, Princess Leia, and Obi-Wan Kenobi all stepped up their roles in this movie. They really owned their roles. You got a strong sense of their characters early on in this film, and they only grew with you over time. The dynamic that existed between these characters was great, particularly R2-D2 and C-3PO. I just loved seeing this pair together. It was quite delightful. On the same token, anytime Princess Leia was on screen, showing just how determined and fierce she was just felt refreshing. In many ways, she felt just like her mother in her heyday. And there was just something that I really liked about Obi-Wan Kenobi. I don't know exactly what it is, but his character resonates with me. Maybe that's why out of everybody I could have chosen, I chose to wield Obi-Wan's lightsaber. I just like the guy. Overall, I really enjoyed my experience with Star Wars this time again. It had been so long since I had last seen it, but more of this movie stuck with me than the prequels. So while I may not have loved it like other people, I definitely was reminded of how fun it was. How much simple joy was brought to me about Star Wars. Watching Luke, Leia, and Han navigate this world was refreshing and different. While it certainly did feel like a first installment, I really liked what was seeded in this story. We made it to the top 2 films in my Star Wars countdown. This leaves us with Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, and Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Now these 2 films are the cream of the crop when it comes to Star Wars and take the top 2 spots in my countdown for a number of reasons. For one, it made me the Star Wars fan I am today, and the other capitalized on my already established fanboyism and multiplied it tenfold. Now I don't want to take anything away from the other 4 Star Wars films in my countdown, but these 2 just cannot be topped in my opinion and share a special place in my heart. One of them personally is simply the best in the Star Wars series, and that goes to Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Now I'll get to that one in a second, but first let's talk a little about the runner-up, my number 2 pick for favorite Star Wars film, and that goes to Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. The Phantom Menace is the first Star Wars movie that I can remember seeing in theaters, and I was blown away by the story and characters, some more than others. Jar Jar Binks gets a lot of grief for being stupid and clumsy. He was the comic relief, much like Ewoks were back in Return of the Jedi. An interesting little tidbit you may not know is that George Lucas wrote Jar Jar into the script to become the next Chewbacca. I don't think so. Okay, besides Jar Jar Binks, I'm surprised that this movie got so much negative criticism from fans and critics alike. I really enjoyed this installment in the franchise. Some people say Anakin Skywalker is annoying in this film and that there was no real protagonist, unless you argue that Obi-Wan is the protagonist, but it's never made clear. The plot was somewhat lackluster and overcrowded with unnecessary dialogue. Apart from these things, I still really liked this movie. One scene I really enjoyed in this movie was that badass lightsaber battle between Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Darth Maul. Lucas wanted the lightsaber duel to be fast and more intense, depicting the Jedi in his prime. He really delivered that lightsaber duel in Phantom Menace that ended with the demise of Darth Maul. Now in my opinion, Darth Maul was killed off a little too early in the series, but that's just me. I also really loved all the special effects in this movie, from the underwater chase scene to the pod racing race scene, which to this day is my favorite scene within the Star Wars movie. I just loved it and still really love watching Anakin defy the odds and race his pod against longtime pod racing champion Sebulba. This scene was so awesome that it was the basis for a video game, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, for the Nintendo 64, which holds the Guinness Book of World Record for the best-selling sci-fi racing game. It was probably my favorite racing game as a boy, apart from maybe Mario Kart. But back to the Phantom Menace, another aspect I really enjoyed was that we got to see the Jedi's fighting styles as well as their way of life. We see them fight on multiple occasions like the beginning of the movie. We get a feel for what it's like to have a lightsaber, invincible, As for the way they run their lives, we get to see the lifestyle of a Jedi as well. A very strict code with the Council of Jedi is pretty cool when you think about it. So I'm sure many of you may think that the Phantom Menace doesn't deserve the number 2 spot, that it should be sitting in the bottom of the Star Wars barrel, but I disagree. This movie holds a special spot in my heart and is my second favorite Star Wars film, so for all of you that hate this movie can simply do like D-Generation X and... On to my number 1 favorite Star Wars movie of all time. Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Okay, I'm going to start off by saying The Empire Strikes Back is the best film in the original Star Wars trilogy. It has all the great qualities that the original Star Wars has, great effects, appealing characters, and lots of spellbinding action. It also has eliminated some of the problems that plagued the first. The storyline is tighter and goes much deeper into character development. The performances are terrific, especially by Harrison Ford as Han Solo and Billy D. Williams as Lando Calrissian. George Lucas has also remembered to include a spellbinding battle sequence with the snowspeeder sequence near the beginning of the film. The conclusion with the lightsaber duel between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker is truly one of the best suspenseful and dramatic scenes in the entire series. This is a truly wondrous film. It serves as a constant reminder that just because a movie is expensive and a blockbuster doesn't mean that it has to be shallow and two-dimensional. This film will undoubtedly entertain viewers for all ages from start to finish. Well, there you have it. I just listed off all 6 of the main Star Wars films in order from the okay to the remarkably awesome, everything in between. I'm almost positive that how I ranked the 6 episodes did please all of you who took the time to watch this. So feel free to drop me some comments down below and let me know what your favorite is in the series. And also, if you enjoyed this video, drop me some love and possibly even a thumbs up and subscribe. That would be incredible. Star Wars Episode 7 The Force Awakens hits theaters nationwide December 18th. And for what I've seen of both trailers, it looks like it is going to be a contender for Best Star Wars Movie. We can only hope that it lives up to, if not exceeds, all expectations. What do you guys think? I want to give a quick thanks to Wikipedia, IGN, and RottenTomatoes.com for providing me with some of the information and reviews I needed to compile this list, as well as to George Lucas and Lucasfilms for the video content I used. All video clips from the movies are the trademarks of George Lucas and Lucasfilms. And a big thank you goes out to all of my fans. You guys truly rock. This concludes Star Wars Episode 1 through 6, SacredLink's countdown video. Until the next countdown video, hope you all have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Stay awesome, guys, and may the Force be with you.